It's a beautiful night in Iowa City in late January, the year 2017. Warm, beautiful, and what makes it warmer is our guests tonight. We have number one, the Assistant Superintendent of the Iowa City Community School District, the Honorable Amy Kortemeyer, with us tonight for the first time or second time?
Second time.
Second time.
Yes.
But the first time with Elwie. And my co-host, Elwie Apper Harris, is back in the show. We missed her twice before. And all our audience, we are, as you know, the most popular program on cable TV in the nation. You know that. Why are you smiling? And of course, this is the first time for you with her.
Yes.
We had the honor meeting you before. And we have London, who is a young director doing our program tonight. I think he's at City High, right? One of our students at City High, so he's one of your students here. We have to be very proud of the fact that he is directing your program.
Absolutely.
Elwie, I would like you to start with our questions, our tough questions.
It's not that tough of a question, but since this is my first time meeting you, I thought I'd like to sort of get to know you and ask how you got started as the Assistant Superintendent for our community.
Sure. So it takes me back several years, if not a couple of decades, but I actually was an undergrad here at the University of Iowa, graduated with an elementary education degree, and was off searching for my first teaching job, which came upon one actually in Texas. So moved briefly from the state of Iowa and taught 4th grade in Texas. Soon was able to come back home, and I taught 6th grade at Benton Community. And then I spent about 11 years after that in the Cedar Rapids Community School Districts, both teaching elementary students still, became a reading teacher during that time, and then moved into my first administrative job. I was elementary principal at Erskine Elementary in Cedar Rapids. And then from there, continued to work on various degrees. My superintendency endorsement included. Became the elementary director of teaching and learning at Linn-Mar for 7 years. My last year at Linn-Mar, just kind of a unique circumstance, tiny school district, Springville, it's a community school district. Just east there of the Linn-Mar School District was looking for a superintendent, and the board and our superintendent at Linn-Mar at the time were kind enough to allow me to work in both positions part-time. So that year was a great learning year for me, understanding what the role of the superintendency is like, as well as getting to keep my director of teaching and learning role. So anyway, fast forward, and then soon thereafter, Iowa City Schools had this position open, and actually I was the director of elementary schools at that time, and applied and was lucky enough to have it. So I was sharing with Elwie just a little bit earlier that I feel like I've come full circle. I have such a great love for this community, and as an undergrad, just desired to get my first teaching job in Iowa City, and wasn't fortunate enough at that time, but lo and behold, many years later, I have the great fortune to work in the capacity that I am now. So thrilled to be here, and I appreciate having me on the show.
We are in the company of John Karhoff, the father of this beautiful program, many years ago. I won't say how many. And Michael Peterson, who's with us, floor direction, but he is one of the founders of this program many years ago.
Okay.
And with Elwie, we came up with a menu for you tonight. And this menu had 3 items or 4 items. One of them is, you just finished introducing yourself. And now I think, what is the most important thing that you're busy doing right now?
Sure. Well, there's lots of important things that we're working on, but kind of at the top of my mind is just our preparations for the 2017-2018 school year, if you can believe it already. And that includes, of course, kindergarten registration and trying to find out how many kindergartners we're going to have coming to visit us in the fall. So I've got some slides that we can share and talk a little bit to our community about. So kindergarten registration this year happens on the next slide, on March 1st and 2nd. And we're running that parallel to our conference dates and times. So from 7:40 to 3:40, parents could drop in on March 1st, or between 2:10 p.m. and 7:10 p.m. on March 2nd. And families will want to go to their home attendance center, so those where they can go to the homeschool lookup on our district website if they're unsure what their attendance center is. They can also call the main office, the central office, at 319-688-1000 if they need further information about where their home attendance center is. And you'll see on the next slide that we're trying to publish this just as much as we can, because we would like as many people participating in registration as possible in March. So our parent notification currently includes flyers. You'll see those out and about in the community, certainly in our buildings, as well as at our preschools, our daycare centers, just trying to get the word out. Of course, tonight we're talking about it at the Education Exchange. You'll see some bank marquees in the near future, beginning roughly in February, advertising those dates. And our principals have done a nice job of putting together a video that we hope to show at the end of this show tonight. We'll also be displaying that same video that's promoting kindergarten registration on the district website and then on our individual building websites, as well as some different TV channels. Parents might wonder next, what happens during kindergarten registration? What should I be prepared for? And roughly, they should think about being there for about 30 to 45 minutes. We would like parents, if at all possible, to bring verification of birth, which could include birth certificate, passports. We're willing to work with parents on what that looks like. Those are typically what we see from our parents. Immunization records, and then proof of residency, and that proof could be something like a rental or a lease agreement, maybe a utility bill, so that we know that they are residing in that particular attendance area. During that time then, kind of a couple of things will happen. One, on the next slide it shows parents will be creating PowerSchool accounts. Now, not all of our parents have to do that, because some of them have preschoolers in our system currently, and so we'll just be updating their accounts. But for our parents that do not have children in the system yet, it's important for us to get those PowerSchool accounts up and running, and that really helps us keep and track enrollment for purposes of staffing and things like that. General information will be shared that night. We have several pieces of paper that our parents are inundated with. Some general information. Kindergarten enrollment really just talks about that information, the age a child needs to be, by which date. The kindergarten ready for school guide, there's a long list of forms that we need back, and that guide does a nice job of walking parents through the different forms and what their purpose serves and who should bring those in. And then another general form regarding immunization requirements. And there you'll see that for parents who might not have had certain immunizations done, there's an exemption form to fill out for parents if they were not having immunizations because of medical or religious purposes. That details that for them as well. On the next slide then, there's the following list of paperwork. Our forms that we need back in one form or another. Some of those can be right there on the spot filled out. Others require the dental office or the doctor's office to help supply the information. There's a kindergarten questionnaire that we like families to fill out and return. That's just some helpful information that help our teachers get started on that first day of school by knowing their child just a little bit better. This isn't something we necessarily promote, but for the rare instances where we might have families that really feel like a half-day program might be beneficial for their student, we outline what they're kind of signing on for should they pick that option. Of course, we've got the Iowa Department of Public Health Certificate of Immunization that they would be getting from their doctor's office. We've got a form that they can use for that. The Certificate of Dental Screening would also go to their dental provider. Student health history is a form that we use in district that our nurses keep on file. certificate of vision screening, the home language survey, and the application for pupil transportation. And that application also outlines just Iowa code, and that at the elementary level, at the K-8 level, actually, if you are less than 2 miles or more than 2 miles from your attendance center, that mandatory busing is provided. And at 9 through 12, that would be 3 miles and more. So there's a lot of paperwork, and I understand that it's can't necessarily all be done in that 30 to 45 minutes, but between getting the Power School account set up, some of the paperwork filled out, and just understanding where they need to go to have the rest of the paperwork, it's kind of a big night and a big to-do. And parents often ask us if their children should come along to this particular opportunity, and this is not one that we necessarily encourage. Of course, children are welcome to come, but it's not necessary. We'll have an opportunity for the kindergarten.
I see they can bring their pets. I see a beautiful doggy there, right?
Yes, sure. So the next slide then talks about what are those other opportunities for our kindergartners. So what happens next? On April 20th is the date and time then we really encourage our kindergartners, our oncoming kindergartners, to come into the buildings with their parents. And that's just a quick hour that day, but it gets the kiddos acclimated to the building. It allows them to see put some names and faces together with potentially who would be their kindergarten teacher. And then we do we share some more specific information unique to those buildings and maybe what the day is going to look like with our parents at that time. So April 20th will be the next important day after March 1st and 2nd, and then, of course, school. School begins on August 23rd, and we're looking forward to that already. Like I said, there's no rest for the weary, certainly gearing up for 2017 and 2018 already.
How many kids are, you of course predict the number of kids in the classroom.
So,
how many kids you are currently in a kindergarten class, and how many are you predicting?
So I would say when we look at our enrollment reports, K-12, we're really seeing our class sizes be roughly somewhere between 1,000 and 1,200 students. And you see those larger numbers tending to be at our earlier grades, and those lower numbers kind of cycling out as we continue to increase our enrollment over time. So we'd expect roughly around between 1,100 and 1,200 students again this coming fall.
Specifically, in one classroom, how many?
Mm-hmm.
And there is a reason I'm asking this, because during the last couple of days, the Department of Education had published its condition of the educational report annually. And this year, the average in Iowa as a state was 19 kids per class.
Right.
What is the rate here in Iowa City?
So we have been operating off of superintendent directions in the past, where class sizes or goalposts were established roughly with 24 kindergartners per section. However, since late last spring, the board and administration have been working on considering whether we would want to look at a weighted resource allocation model based on a variety of factors. Could be socioeconomic status, English language learners, special education needs. So looking at the buildings through that lens. And in doing so, then we set some different goalposts depending on where buildings were falling out. So our newer targets look like, for those where we've got the biggest opportunities, I would say roughly around 20, then 24 and 26. So that's roughly what you'd see in our kindergarten classrooms across the district currently. And we're able to pretty much be within that range right now. So trying to meet the needs of just a little bit differently than kind of a one-size-fits-all right now, and it's worked out for us with staffing, and we'll see.
You are supervising all the elementary education in Iowa City Community School District, and I think you had a question about elementary schools, right?
I sure do. Actually, I do want to ask you, to go back on what you were saying about the numbers of students in a classroom, is that an increase then this year or this upcoming year?
So for most classrooms across the district, there was a slight decrease. We do have some buildings that would be hitting that 26 target. So there is some schools that have less than, obviously the number with 20, and there's some that have increased. But we all know that we're not getting sections of 26, perfectly. So in our buildings that we might have said your goal post is 26, we very easily could have 22 to 23 students in those classrooms, where our goal post at the at the other level might be 20 students, but we could see sections of 21. So it's a goal post. Unfortunately, students don't come in those neat enrollment packages for us, depending on the building. But,
Sure.
it's a game that we continue to watch from the springtime, when we have to have our staffing in place and just constantly watch it. I think the critical period for us is after we hold that registration for our parents. Last year, I think it was on August 8th. Because Power School will roll all of our students up over the course of the summer, but until a parent actually goes into their Power School account and says that, yes, they're coming back, we can't 100% know what that enrollment looks like. So that registration time is just key and critical for us, and we know parents and teachers and our building principals are concerned about what class sizes look like, but those numbers just get more firm as we get close to that day of school opening, and then of course we're still seeing students even enroll that day and days follow. So it's a little bit of a moving target, but I would say by Labor Day we were feeling very good about where our numbers and our staffing were this year.
Very good. So this leads me for the next question. Now, Hani and I were speaking about Hoover Elementary School. Tell us a little bit about that. I know there's a new development happening, how the new transition will work out. Sure. And how it will all play out.
Yeah, so the newest Hoover on American Legion Road out there, Barrington, is slated to be open this coming fall. But it will not open as Hoover as we know it right now. It will actually be a transitional schoolhouse for a few years before it officially becomes the new Hoover building. So next year the plan is Longfellow Elementary will be under a historic renovation of their building. It's going to be an exciting time with increased square footage and just a total overhaul for that building, and I know that we've got a lot of excitement around that in the community. But Longfellow students will be moved out to the new Hoover building and site and spend the whole year out there. We'll package up the teachers' stuff and transport it out there. Things that don't need to maybe shift out to New Hoover will be put in storage. We're planning for the media center and ordering books and thinking about the staffing.
Maybe busing them too?
Part will stay the same, yes. And so our big project that we've been working on this past month is that transportation piece.
Yeah.
And we have a letter ready to go, I would say in the next week or two, for our Longfellow families. It's going to detail several things to them. One key piece is that transportation piece. And so for some of our kiddos now that are within walking distance of Longfellow and never have had busing, they're going to become bus eligible going out to the new Hoover at Longfellow at Hoover building, whereas the flip will happen too. Some of those kids that are being bused to Longfellow because they're so far from Longfellow will now be closer to New Hoover, and they will be able to walk. And so we're going to detail for parents whether they're qualified for the mandatory busing or not. The other thing is the before and after school programming and the summer programming. That's important for our parents to know. So we have to figure out a site to hold the summer school programming, and we're working on that. That's part of that letter. The before and after school programming then makes sense that it would be at that new Hoover site where Longfellow will be. So there's pieces that we're detailing, and then also to make parents aware that following year then they're coming back and their transportation will go back to what it was that prior year. So there's a lot of details that we're trying to get out in front of parents so they have plenty of time to make plans and prepare.
I will go back to the condition of the educational report again. Now, we know that the number in Iowa, according to this report, the number of kids enrolled in public education is 484 something. And the number of kids who are enrolled in non-public school is about 34,000. There's a difference, definitely. But with the new administration now, whether some of us agree or differ with their philosophy, there will be a shift and change in the policy in general. There will be more privatization and more chances for the non-for-profit as well as the religious schools and charter schools and so forth. Are you ready as a district now for the new changes, and how we can give the public school system the power to compete with the non-public school system that is going to be supported by the new administration?
We're certainly hearing that, the same information that you are, whether it's at the federal level or at the state level.
Right.
You know, that push for giving parents the choice to do
Right.
what they want with their children's education, even tracking through potentially what that might mean to set aside some dollars for college. And so it's just even more of a critical time for us that are in public education to make sure that we are promoting all the wonderful things that we do and are capable of doing. It's just the hallmark of our nation is public education. And so I think it's absolutely critical that we're sending that message. And I think one nice organization that we're being supported by is Iowa Association of School Boards, have put together kind of this Promise of Iowa campaign where they too are helping promote public education and the benefits of public education. Of course, it's parents' choice whether they decide to do private or not, but we've got to do a good job on our end selling
Sure.
why our product is just as good as theirs, if not better.
And you have a chance now with the bond issue, right? Can you address this? We have a couple of minutes, if you can cover a little bit, a message from you to the community, just to clarify why it is important that we promote this bond issue. Whether it's going to be partial bond issue, as some of members of the board would like to do, or a total. This, of course, is up in the air still.
Sure.
They are going to vote within maybe a few days about it. But I would like you to convey a message to the community that it's very important for us to support the bond issue
Sure.
for the schools in order to get our plan executed.
Well, I would say that the facilities master plan has certainly been a huge undertaking and a lot of time invested by a lot of people. Last couple of years, there's been over 1,000 people that have had input in whether that's face-to-face meetings, through the thought exchange that we do. And it's really a historic plan that touches every single attendance center across our district. So there's something truly in it for everybody at every level, whether that's our elementary kids, junior high students, or our high school kids. It touches every quadrant in town. It touches all our municipalities. And what it really does is brings our buildings up to date in just the needs of today. So when you have many buildings to take care of, you've got to go back and make sure that you are giving everybody an equal education playing field. And that's really what this facilities master plan has done. As we've been able to work through it so far, SAVE and Pebble dollars have been utilized, but we knew that that wasn't going to be able to complete the plan, and a bond would be needed. Now, I think the tricky piece is whether SAVE will get extended, and we know that, though, that the bond is something that would help us keep the plan on pace. Right now, we've been on time, on budget, we've got the projects done that we promised, and to continue to do that for the remaining buildings, the bond would allow that to not stop or hamper or the timeline whatsoever.
Thank you very much for a wonderful show tonight, and we'd like you to come back and visit with us again. And thanks to Elwie for being our co-host tonight. Thanks for Mike Peterson, John Karhoff, and London, who is our new director there, the young man that has all the future in front of him. This show will be on Channel 18. Now that there are new numbers. This week, Mediacom, and we are under the mercy of Mediacom, and there are some changes. So please look at your local listings and the new numbers by Mediacom, as well as the YouTube. And this, we guarantee that Trenton is taking care of us very well. Trenton Orris, our big guy here at Public Access TV, and he sends this immediately. So maybe you will be able to see it tonight on YouTube. And for our audience, thank you for listening and for being with us. And we will say have a very good night and enjoy the good weather. And thanks again to you.
Thank you for having me. Nice to meet you both.
Good to meet you.
It's time to ready the classrooms for a new crop of kindergartners in the Iowa City School District. These elementary principals are really eager beavers, jumping right in to help ensure everything is at the ready for the energetic youngsters next fall. Mark your calendars for kindergarten registration, Wednesday, March 1st, between 7:40 a.m. and 3:40 p.m., or Thursday, March 2nd, between 2:10 p.m. and 7:10 p.m. Registration is very important as it ensures the correct number of classrooms will be ready for the next school season. The registration process can take 30 to 40 minutes, so parents may wish to leave the little ones at home. But fear not, those prospective kindergartners will have a chance to tour the school with their parents, visiting the classrooms and meeting their teachers on April 20th during Kindergarten Roundup. To register for kindergarten, your child must be 5 years of age by September 15th of this year. You should register at their home attendance school, even if you are requesting a transfer. If you are unsure of your child's home attendance school, or will not have the opportunity to register your child March 1st or 2nd, please contact the Educational Services Center by phone or go online for more information. While these dedicated elementary principals toil away, you can rest assured these kindergarten classrooms will be at the ready for your child to start his or her exciting new adventure in learning. And we're looking forward to seeing you at registration on March 1st or March 2nd.